Joe Hopkins here, and I'm here to talk to you about, well, you can read the title there. You can read it, and it might seem a little contradictory. Why new music sucks and is great, all right? And I wanted to talk about this topic because I hear about it a lot. Why new music sucks, and I hear people talk about how music now is amazing. There's so much out there that's great. And I was kind of thinking about it, right? And here's the truth. I find that it's always been this way. There has always been, since the beginning of recorded music, you've had, let me turn that a little, there we go. You've had the music industry, right? Started pretty early on. I mean, back with 78 RPM records, they were recording Enrico Caruso, the guy that made RCA what it is. The first big recorded pop star, and opera, right? That's what was really the big thing at the time, the popular music. And he was the first big pop star. And very early on in industrialized music, where you have a music industry, you have, oh man, you have music that becomes very quickly paint by numbers, popular, like factory line produced music. You have songwriters, you have producers, you have performers. You put it all together and you get something that's very streamlined, popular music. Early on, like in the 20s and 30s, you had the Tin Pan Alley stuff. And by the 50s and 60s, you got, the bubblegum doo-wop crap. And a lot of it's good music, but it is very streamlined production process, right? It's not exactly high art. From the start though, Caruso, yeah, I'd say that's high art, right? It really is. Although you can arguably say he's not an artist in the sense that he wrote music. He was singing other people's music, but it was very art, right? Obviously. But yeah, very quickly it becomes a streamlined process all the way into like the corporate rock era. And by the 80s, you have, 80s pop and hair metal, and a lot of it sounds just like everything else. It's not exactly high artistic expression, even when the bands are writing their own songs, right? And a lot of it is going along to get along kind of stuff. All the way up to now, where it's very streamlined, it's very corporate. Songs with, 9, 10, 12 songwriters on it. This group of people writes the song, this guy produces it, this person is performing it. It's all meant to make money, right? I can't fault the industry for wanting to survive and make money and do the thing that's commercially acceptable. I don't even blame the people that just want to turn on the radio or hit a streaming playlist and hear familiar stuff, right? But the truth is that isn't the best music in a lot of ways. It's very cut and paste, copycat, like I said, assembly line music. And it's not the best thing out there. However, at the same time, you've always had an undercurrent of true art that stands the test of time, really says something, and is a meaningful expression of the people making it. And a lot of times you do have a songwriter and then the person performing it, but it's still like a totally different kind of thing. And you've always had that, right? Even from the beginning, you had the blues artists that became popular, while wall of sound and bubblegum rock were, the thing on the top of the charts. And you always have the people that break through. And we see movements, like in the 60s, the whole British invasion movement, where you have people really doing something, and it really blossoms into something bigger. You have the whole, heavy blues and heavy metal thing in the 70s that hard rock phase that was really saying something. You had the hippie folk thing. You had grunge. grunge was great, and really blossoming out of that alternative rock thing that was getting big by the late 80s. Really a cool thing. And you have something similar today. The difference is a lot of the really good stuff, some of it breaks through, but a lot of the really good, valuable, I would say the expressions of a culture of our generation aren't the people that it was in the past, where somebody at a label had to take a chance on them. It's a lot of the DIY stuff. And a lot of the really good artists and really good artistic movements in music right now are very DIY. It's do it yourself. It's record it yourself. Put it out yourself. Do it on YouTube and streaming services, which, you know, streaming services really, they do bone you. You're getting peanuts for the listens you get, but that's because hey man, the record companies had to figure out how to monetize this new paradigm for themselves. So they went and bought into all the streaming services and made sure that the streaming services got really good deals to where they don't have to pay the artists much. Unlike radio. Radio pays pretty good, like 10 cents a song, and streaming services are a fraction of a cent per listen. But that's because the record companies bought into them and then gave themselves good deals and screwed the artists so that they could make more money for themselves. But hey, that's the way it always is. But a lot of the good music is very DIY now. The really relevant stuff. And they're not becoming big stars. But you have to remember, in the past, a lot of the most relevant artists weren't big stars. Jimi Hendrix wasn't he wasn't topping the charts, man. And, you know, it's always been like that. Sometimes you have the people that break through and really hit the top, like Nirvana. Or, you know, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, if you want to go back to the 70s. But you don't always. You don't always have the relevant artists break through, and you're not now. They're not getting big record contracts. They're not getting big record deals. But they're very relevant, and it's very decentralized. So instead of a record label taking a chance on somebody, like with Jimi Hendrix, we're going to take a chance on this guy. It's relevant, and we think it might do well enough. Instead, you have all the whole genre, the whole group of people that would have been with Jimi Hendrix, and he's the one they took a chance on. Well, now you don't have to take a chance on one. They're all there. They're all putting out music themselves. So it's kind of like if every band in Seattle in the early 90s was able to put their stuff on streaming. You don't have Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. You have 20 bands that are all there at the same time. And it means you have to look a little bit deeper. You have to do some hunting, right? And I really do like some of the genres that are really blowing up right now in this underground scene. One of my favorites is, it seems a lot of singer-songwriter, really folky. A lot of times they call it roots or Americana. And a lot of it's rather dark tinged. Not all of it, but there's a lot of dark folk stuff that's doing really, really well. They're really great songs, a lot of them. I mean, you have some bands or artists that are like meh, but most of them are pretty good, and some of them are incredible. And they're not exactly rising to the top, but it's a whole movement. And you really kind of have to hunt for it, right? And you also have a lot of movements in other forms of music. There's a lot of underground hip-hop stuff that's way more relevant socially and interesting than what's getting pushed by record labels and making it onto the charts. The stuff making it on the charts, a lot of it isn't very, very deep. I wouldn't say it's not good, but it's not very deep. But you have a lot of much deeper stuff if you look, right? But you really have to look at it. I like Aesop Rock. I know he's one of the bigger ones that isn't really being pushed on the radio or by a major label, but I like his stuff. I really do. It's very socially relevant and interesting, and the guy's really good at what he does. And there is a really awesome hard rock and metal movement, especially metal, progressive metal. There's a huge progressive metal movement underground in all this stuff. And there's a lot of crap too. But there's no filter. You just have to look and find what you like. And the nice thing about that is what I think is crap, you might love. So you don't have a gatekeeper telling you what to like anymore. And that entire underground movement, instead of just having a few people peek through, you can go through all of it, which is awesome. I'd recommend like on Spotify or iTunes, or go to some of the least played ones. And I've seen people do videos on this, like Stevie T did this thing where he was looking for artists that got like no plays. And some of them were intriguing to me, and some of them were actually pretty good, even though they have no followings. But maybe they should. We need to hunt for music. You can't just turn on the radio and expect there to be something good on there, because there just isn't, because the best artists aren't getting signed and they're not getting pushed, and they're choosing an artistic freedom over an attempt to make it on a label. And I respect that too, especially since once you make it on a label, you lose a lot of your freedom. You really do, at least at first. If you can make it big for a little while, then you can pull some of that artistic freedom back from the label and do a lot more yourself, because you have a lot more clout. You're a proven artist. But if you don't go with a label and do it yourself, you have that from the very start. And a lot of these people are very good, but you have to look for them. Now, nothing wrong against the bubblegum nonsense that they're putting out on the top of the charts, and some of it is really good. And if you just want to turn on the radio and have something to listen to, I mean, go ahead, man. Turn on a country station and all the songs sound the same. It's all familiar. Same with pop. But it's great for just background at work, I guess. But if you do want something good, because music doesn't just suck now. A lot of it does, but there is so much good stuff. But you really have to dig. And I know I've done videos like this before where I talk about that, but it's such a relevant topic right now because there is so much music being released. And so much of it is very good, but doesn't have a major push behind it. You really do have to look. Go down the rabbit hole. Go on to Spotify or YouTube. YouTube is great for going down that rabbit hole because you can just type in a genre or make a genre up and see if there's something that comes up with it. Think of what you would like to hear, right? Like with the dark folk, I was looking for dark folk and I got all kinds of stuff. And once you start listening to one, there is a suggestion for the next song, and then another suggestion after that, and another one after that. And you might have to wade through some crap to get the stuff you like. But the stuff you like, when you find it, it's pure gold. It just speaks to your heart. And there's so much out there that you can find, even though it's kind of obscure, that really speaks to you and really improves your life. Having that on, let's say, your Spotify playlist, or having it on your, listen to their album, it can really make your day. It can really make, if you're going through a hard time, it can speak to you and help you through it. If you're having a great time, it can make that great time a little bit better. Finding music you love is always something that's worthwhile. And honestly, sometimes you do have to hunt. But it's like that with all art, right? You like paintings, sometimes you have to hunt for the artist that connects to you. They're not always the one we know. They're not always Leonardo da Vinci, right? They're not always Andy Warhol. Same thing with books. I love to go to used bookstores or go to Ollie's and just get something randomly. Just pick stuff at random because, hey man, sometimes it's junk and sometimes you find something awesome. But it's worth the journey. Do that with music. Find some random stuff and see what you think, right? Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Music right now, that's my rant. I guess it's a rant. Music does suck, but it's always sucked. But it's also great. And it's always been great. You just have to look in different places, right? I love you guys. At the end of this video, there's an end screen. You should subscribe to my channel and you should check out my songs. Hey, I'm great and obscure, and you could be the first one to discover me because my songs don't do that well on this channel. They do okay, but they don't do great, right? My rants don't always do that great either. Thanks for you guys that are still here listening to my stupidity all the way to the end of this ridiculous shit post of me just ranting about crap. Anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Peace out, baby. Bye-bye.